Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's ClaritySoft training webinar. And today's topic is on action plans. Today, doing a quick overview, how to create action plans, save them, and then apply them. Action plans allow you to take a group of activities, bundle them together under an action plan name, and set timeframes for these activities to be scheduled, so that you can take this entire bundle of activities and apply them to a lead record, a contact record, an opportunity record, or a project record. And what makes it nice, if you have certain activities that you want to do that are follow-up type activities to a new lead coming in, you can create the action plan, save it, and then you just simply apply the action plan when you have a new lead. It schedules those activities, and then they show up in your to-do list. So it makes it really easy for you to help schedule things so that you don't have to create the same activities over again. Today, we're going to do a couple samples. One is a new lead follow-up, a new customer kickoff, and then sent quote follow-up. And then you'll get the idea once we do these, and I'm sure you'll start to think of some ways that you can create action plans. You can create as many action plans as you like that can apply to any type of follow-up process. And it's basically when you want to create multiple activities and apply them somewhere. And what we're going to do with the new lead follow-up, we're going to say that we got some new leads in today. So I can see over here that I have a creation date of 3/12. So if I put in some new leads today, or they came in from our website, or we imported them, or however you brought them into the leads module, we want to set up a follow-up set of activities for each of the new leads. Well, here I just have 3 for today, so not terrible. But if I had 50, I don't want to go to 50 records and create 5 activities that are exactly the same for 50 records. That would be a waste of my time. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to create an action plan. Now, just so you know, action plans may or may not be turned on in your database. Also, if you're not an admin user in the database, you may not see this and be able to do it. You'd have to speak with your admin user. So to get to action plans, you click on the settings button up here in the upper right corner. And on the left, under the settings, you will see action plans. And then I've already clicked there. Here I have several already saved. I want to create a new one. So I click the add button and I give it a name. And then you can type a description. Now, when you're creating this, one of the options you have here is this checkbox for exclude weekends when it's counting the number of days and figuring out when it needs to calculate the dates for the follow-up. So if you don't want it to include weekends in the count, then you would click in this checkbox. If you want weekends to be included, then you uncheck it. I'm going to guess that most of the time you don't want weekends included, but that depends on your situation. Enabled means that the action plan is active and enabled in the database. So you could create an action plan, decide you don't want to use it, and then you can disable it so it won't show up in a drop-down list of all your action plans later. So we have this much, we have the name, a description, and the settings here. So now we want to add our activities. So you click this to add a new activity. Your subject line is what helps your person know what they're supposed to do. So let's say initial lead email. The activity type, this will be a list of all of your activity types that you currently have. So if you think you need to add additional activity types, then you'll want to go and do that first so that they will be in the drop-down list here. But this is going to be an email. You can set a priority. And then here, because I'm the person doing this, it's trying to assign the activity to me. But your better way to go about this is to assign it to the record owner. And then what will happen is when a new lead comes in, if you assign it to a specific user in the system, and then the user applies the action plan, or maybe you apply the action plan, it will then assign all of the activities to that person who owns the lead record. So that's your safe way to do it. Then here's where you get to think about, well, what is our follow-up time? And this is what makes action plans unique, in that once you create them, it automatically will calculate your dates. And so you never need to worry about what the date is, because it will calculate it. So for this one, for sending an initial email, I want it to start the day of the action plan, and I want it to be completed or done within 1 day. So when a new lead comes in and you apply the action plan, the person should get the activity and know that it needs to be done within 1 day. Now, if you need to give people a little more time, you can set it for 2. You also can set a reminder that would pop up. That might get a little tedious, because if they get 20 new leads, you're going to have 20 reminders popping up. So I don't know that that would be very feasible. And then down here, you can choose what category if you want to use this. This is optional. So I'm going to save it, and I get my first activity in here. Then I'm going to add another one. And you can decide what all your activities are. And this is going to be a call. Again, I'm going to make it assigned to the record owner. And this one, I want to start 2 days out from the start of the action plan and be due 4 days out. Again, you want to give some span of time, because the person might not get to it just because of other circumstances. So you want to give them a little span of time. And then I'm going to add one more activity here. You can add as many as you want. Now, another comment on the owner here. In some situations, it's possible inside your own company, you might have processes that people follow, where maybe you bring in a new customer and then one person is responsible for sending out some documents to that customer. So if one person is always responsible for doing that, you could have an activity for send documents and assign it to that specific person. If that specific person always does it, then it would land on that person's to-do list. If it's another activity that the record owner should do, then you can do that. So you can use this to get tasks that need to be done assigned to the proper people. All right, I'm going to save this. So I now have 3 activities, and I have my start and due dates. Over here, if for some reason you wanted to move these, you can. Now, what ClaritySoft is going to do, it will keep these in the order of the start and due dates, the time order. Sometimes you have things where you don't have a set schedule, and now we've made it so that if you put nothing here, zeros, then it will just keep it in the order in which you type it. And I'll talk about that a little later. Okay, so we're going to save this action plan. Now, here's the key thing. Once you're done with your action plan, before you can go apply it, you need to log out and log back in. So if I'm the person in charge of getting new leads, I can create a filter in here and save it to pull up all the brand new leads where the creation date is today. So up here, I can go to advanced search and go to the time filter and say creation date is this one day, or it could be this week, you know, however often you want to process the leads. So I can search, and again, if you're going to use this all the time, then you can save this filter view. So tomorrow when I run this, it will pick up the ones for the 13th. So I have got all of them for today, which is the 12th. So I have all these new leads. And now what I want to do is I want to apply the action plan. Now I'm going to do this just so you can see how this works. I'm going to go into the record and I'm going to change the owner of one of these records to a different user. So I've assigned one to Kelly, the other 2 to Susan. Now I want to apply my action plan. And this is where it makes it so easy. I'm going to select my 3 records. I go to List Actions menu, Action Plan. All records marked as checked. And then it gives me the new action plan window, and I select my action plan. So here are my ones that I have. I choose the new lead follow-up, and this is the action plan start date. So I can have an action plan start any day that I want to start it. In this case, I probably want it to start today. If it were Friday, I might want it to start on the following Monday, because it would just make it easier. So you can see here, if I'm starting today, over here, it's calculated. There's the 0, which is the day today, and it was due in 1 day. Here it was supposed to start in 2 days and be due in, 6 or 7? And then here it starts and goes to the 4th. So this automatically calculates your days. If I come up here and change the date, if I go out here, let's see, I'll start it next Monday, the 18th. You can see what it does. It recalculates my dates. And that's what makes this really nice, because whenever you apply it, whenever you say to start it, it automatically calculates your dates for you. So if I come back here and do it back to the 12th, it'll go back to recalculating. So you can have an action plan start in a month if you wanted to. It just depends on the plan and what it's for. So once I do this, I click Save. And when I go to each of my lead records, there are my activities, all dropped in, all scheduled, ready to go. But you can see that you've dropped in a total of 9 activities that if you did those individually, it would take you time to do, to create the same ones. Now, where else does this go? How does this help you? When I go to activities, I'm going to see my activities for today. So here are the 3 activities that are the initial email to the lead. So these are immediately on my to-do list. They're telling me I'm supposed to start them today. They're due by tomorrow. So if I wanted to go down these right now and do them, I can simply come over here, click on this row action button, email the contact, and actually, since all 3 of them need an email, I can select them and go to email contacts. All selected records marked as checked. It opens an email form, and you could have already saved a new lead template, and then you could just pull that template up. I'll pull up this new customer one. So you can have a template already saved that says hello first name. So you would have new customer, new lead, but you can type your template. If you have your signature set up in ClaritySoft, it will automatically pull in your email signature. And then you just click send, sends it off to the 3 people, individually addressed, you're done. So this makes it really nice to help yourself and your team be able to do quick and easy follow-ups. Now, the other tasks, I could mark these as being done. Once I send the emails, then I can select all these again. I can go to List Actions, Group Edit, go to Status, and say Completed. So I send my emails. The emails will be recorded under the activities as a completed activity, and then you can mark the email activity as being completed. And my to-do list is now empty for the day. Okay, but now let's look ahead. If I go to future activities, here are my activities that I need to do. Now, these have a lot more things on, but we can find our leads. Here's Gamble's right here. Here's Gardy Lou, and here's Gilly Goppas. So those are my 3 leads that I'm supposed to do a second email on the 21st. So I don't need, oh, I should have a phone call. Hold on a second. Here's the phone call. So the 14th, I have phone calls to make to those 3 people. So on the 14th, Thursday, in my to-do list, my today's activities, I will see these 3 phone calls that need to be made to these people. So I can call them and I can then take notes about my discussion inside the activity. Notice that I've pulled up the column here that has the phone number. So I've got the phone number right here and I can call. And then while I'm talking to Rachel, I can open my activity and add my notes, whatever we talk about. And at that point, I can mark it being completed, or perhaps I want to add another activity. Maybe we talked about having a meeting or something like that, so I could do a complete and new. So that would be done on the 14th. Notice here it starts on the 14th, it's ending or due by the 20th, so it gives you a 6-day span there. So that's how you do your follow-ups with these. So it creates the activities, it lets you see them in your to-do list, and again, you don't necessarily need to think about it until it shows up on your to-do list. Oh, this is a phone call after the initial email. Now, the way you know this is a lead here in activities is by this asterisk. Any account or contact name that has an asterisk means it's from the leads module. And then you can see my next set of activities are due on the 21st. So these are out into the future from tomorrow on outward as far as I go. So that's setting up new leads, follow-up activities. Now let's go back. Let's say that we want to also have a follow-up for new customers that come on board. It could be sending them an email, a welcome email. It could be making a welcome phone call. Whatever you decide is what you want to do with your customers. So if I go back to settings and action plans, I do have a new customer follow-up one already set up here. So if I look at this, I called it new customer follow-up. Again, excluding weekends. And then I have 1 week follow-up call, 2 week follow-up call, 6 week, and 10 month. So what you have to do here is you have to do some thinking about how many days out. This is great for your salespeople to stay on track in doing follow-ups with people on a regular basis. Because once they apply the action plan, it's going to create one for all the way out 10 months. Notice I do have some reminders set here for different things where it will send an email reminder, which means somewhere out in the future I'll start getting emails to remind me of doing things and I won't remember what I'm supposed to do. So I have that one. Now, I did say that you can apply action plans to leads, to contacts, to opportunities, and to projects. But what we want to be able to do here is search by accounts, because we have some prospects that became customers today and we want to apply a new customer action plan. So what I've already created ahead of time is I've created a view, find all my prospects, and I've already got it set up here, but I'll walk through it. So let's say I want to find everybody who's a prospect, because I have several people to change. And I want to have the owner be myself. So prospects owned by Susan. So status, prospect, owner is Susan. And then advanced search view. Now, for those of you who maybe have not played with advanced search views, you can save them. So if you create a filter that you're going to use very often and you don't want to recreate it every time you run it, you create the filter, run it, make sure it's working the way you want, And then you can click Save and give it a name. So now I have it here in this list. So I can easily switch to view all accounts, which is 300 and some, or I can go to Susan's prospects very quickly and easily. So I have my prospects. Now let's just randomly say that this person, and this one just became customers today. So I can click the 3 and then go to List Actions, Group Edit, and change the status field. Now, notice what's going to happen, folks. My 3 records disappear from the list. That's because my filter is looking for prospects. So you need to come up here and either go back to all accounts, or I already have a view set up for Susan's customers. So there are my customers. So don't panic when that happens. If you have a filter going and then you change something that doesn't fit the filter, records disappear. And then just make sure you either clear the filter or go, switch to another one. So now I don't remember which ones I changed. So if I look up, here's another technique. If I don't remember, I should be able to go to last edit date. So here are my 3 customers. And what I want to do is I want to apply the new customer action plan. Well, I cannot apply it at the account level. But what I can do is come over here and select these 3 accounts. I can go to View Contacts under List Actions. So now I get my 3 contacts for those new customers. And then I can select them, go to List Actions, Action Plan, all records marked as checked, select my new customer follow-up plan, decide when I want to start it, and click Save. And all 3 of those now have that action plan dropped into place. Makes it easy. So you can see again, if you had 5, 6, 7 activities, you drop them in, it's all done. And again, activities will show you when you're in there for your today's activities, they will pop up when you're supposed to do it, and then you'll see what they're supposed to be. So this one's going all the way out to 2020 if I start my date here. So you can begin to see some of these. Here's a 2-week follow-up call on 4/1. These will come up on your today's activities so they don't look as messy as they do here. But it's applied, it's done, you will get the activity and you will do it. So we've done 2, we've done new lead, we've done a new customer, and the other one we wanted to do was to say that in opportunities record, let's say if you're working an opportunity and you get to the stage where you have sent them a quote. So when you send a quote, then you want to apply an action plan for yourself to follow up on that quote within so many days to make sure that you don't forget about it. So I'm going to go to Settings and create a new one. And then again, maybe when you send somebody a quote, you might want to give them 3, 4 days to look at it. So you could say, well, after 3 days, I want to send an email and I want to do it within 5. And then maybe I want to create another follow-up for I want to make a call and I want to do it maybe 7 days out and complete it within 10. So you can do that and then save it. And, you know, if you think you're going to need another call, that may actually, you could create a new activity once you complete these two if the person's, you know, disappearing on you. But we'll just do that for right now. So I'm going to save this. Okay, so let's say I've got a company here and I've sent a quote to them, which, you know, I can convert the opportunity to a quote and all of that sort of thing. But I can add activities in the opportunity. So if I change this to send a quote and then do a save and close. Okay, so here's ClaritySoft Office project. So I send a quote. So I want to apply an action plan to set up my reminders to call about that quote. So here's sent quote follow-up. I want it to start today. So it's giving me the dates. And it will now apply to the opportunity record those activities. And again, they will show up in my to-do list. So that's in the leads module, accounts/contacts, and now opportunities. All those places you can apply. The last place that you can apply action plans are in the projects module. Again, you may not have the projects module. That is an optional module. And the only thing I want to mention there is if you're in a project that you're doing with someone, a lot of times the steps or activities that you're doing don't follow a certain time schedule. You know, like this one has to be done in 5 days, and this one done in 10, and this one done in 15. Because depending on what you're doing and the situation, you don't know when something's going to get done. You just know you have to do these 5 steps or these 10 steps. So one of the things that we just recently changed with action plans is if you create an action plan, and I'm not going to put any time frame in. So if you don't put any time frame in, what happens is ClaritySoft will simply put these in the order in which you enter them. So you can add your activities. And again, this process actually works for myself in ClaritySoft with the implementations that I do. Because when I start working with people, we're not on a, you know, in 3 days we have to do this and in 5 days we have to do that. It just depends on the situation. We just know we need to complete this. And so that's why we changed it to allow you to have that type of list. Then over here, you can move things. Like if you wanted to insert a new activity, it needs to be number 2, you can move it up or down. So you can set that up. There's no start and due date. Save it. Then I am going to log out. All right, if I take this second opportunity here, and I'm going to make it a 1 opportunity. Okay, and I'm going to save it. I'd want to make sure everything's filled in. Then I can take this and convert it to a project. It'll just make it easier to do. So then if I go over here, I'll do a save and close. And I go to projects. I now have a project. Now, currently the project status is inactive, which probably because of a stage that it's set at. So we have stages just like you do in opportunities. So you set your stages. You can have any custom fields in here, any custom fields that are in your opportunity record can come over into the projects record. So then what I can do is I can then apply the action plan to the project. So I can click here on the row action button, action plan. I choose my project action plan, set it to start today, or maybe maybe this project is due to start next week. They don't want to start it till the 18th or even the 25th. So we don't want to do anything on it until then. So we can set it for the 18th. It'll calculate all the same date, but basically it'll just start when you want to start it. And there's no set time limit on things. So all your activities are here, and when you get to them, you notice they're all the same, so it doesn't matter. But when you do this and you have the meeting, then you simply open this, type your notes, result of the meeting, and click it completed. Now, where this works a little differently than other activities is it actually crosses it off and shows you it's completed. And then you start to get a progress bar of what percent of your project is completed according to the total number of activities that you have in it. So that's how you can do that. So you can either put the dates in or not put the dates in, depending on how you work or how you need to work. One more twist, because I don't know if somebody has this situation. Event plan. This one sets up an action plan for scheduling the preparation for an event. What you're doing is you're thinking somewhat backwards in that you want all your preparation done by the 30th day. So what this is doing is saying, okay, well, 30 days out from an event, I want to set the action plan in motion. So if an event is scheduled for June 5th, then I want to start the action plan on May 4th or 5th, 30 days prior, because the venue setup should be the date of the actual event. And then all these things tell you, okay, you need to get the caterer scheduled. You need to get the wait staff scheduled. You need to get employment forms done. So it basically sets it up so that you have a schedule, and with the final activity being the actual day of the venue or the event, that you know everybody has to be there. So this is another way to think about it. If you do event planning or webinar planning or something like that, and you have certain things you need to get done in advance of a webinar or seminars or things that you do, then you could create this type of thing to say, well, 30 days out, I need to make sure, schedule a hotel room, I do this, do that. You would know how far in advance you need to do those things in order to plan so that event is all ready to go. So that's one more way to think about it. So hopefully I've given you some ideas on what to do, to think about with action plans. They can help you save a lot of time because you're not recreating the same activities over and over again, which is tedious to do. And then they can work well in conjunction with email templates, that you can set up email templates so that you have, new lead template, new customer template, all those kinds of things that, again, help make the job that your people are doing easier. Thank you for attending, and hope to see you next week for next week's webinar.